Good morning and welcome to Crack the Mic with Agent of Change, Corey Davis. This segment is titled What Men Want. Now, to be clear, women are often reprimanded for being complicated creatures. But the truth is that men can be just as guilty of sending mixed signals to the opposite sex. In fact, a lot of the reasons for why revert back to society's of thought around masculinity and what is deemed cool, quote unquote, or not. But let's be honest, that's no excuse. So if you've ever wondered what we as men really think and want, here's a sneak peek at what we wish you would know, or wish you knew, rather. Firstly, we crave compliments just as much as you women do. Secondly, our honesty is well-intentioned. And lastly, just to name a few, we really want to solve your problems. And to help me weigh in on this discussion on what men want, part one, I have a distinguished panel. Keon Payton, a versatile, dynamic, and visionary leader with over 20 years of experience in education, business, and community-based roles, serves as Realms Director of Faith Community Outreach, also a Morehouse and Princeton Theological graduate, and a doctoral candidate in strategic leadership at Garrett Evangelical Seminary. He also currently serves as a senior pastor at his church, a 96-year-old church with 200 plus members and growing. Organizations including Ebony, Jet Magazine, Pontiac Promise Zone, Authorities, and others. And our other guest, Izell Wallace, is a husband of two kids, married for 5 years, financial planner, and owner of his own security company, Crown Guard, LLC. He's also one of my executive producers here with Crack the Mic podcast. And last but not least, we have illustrious Pastor Keith Moore, senior pastor of Bread of Life Community Church in Miami, Florida. He has over 11 years at that ministry, married for 21 years with 4 kids, 25 years in ministry, and he has preached both domestically and internationally for well-known ministers like Noel Jones, just to name a few. Good morning, guys, and welcome to the podcast.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. It's an honor to be a part.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just delve into this conversation. Now, some guys may try to play it off like they don't need praise, or they just throw out they just throw on a t-shirt without thinking. But anyone who tries to tell you that they don't want a compliment tossed their way is full of crap. In fact, we work hard just to make the muscles pop, so that we can show off to our spouses or even our potential spouses. Now, let me ask you this question, panel. Do you feel that we men crave compliments just as much as women do? And if so, why? Hello?
Is there anyone in particular you want to start? I guess I'll begin.
Okay.
Absolutely. Men desire and crave attention. I think that as human beings, each of us have an innate desire to want to be affirmed. And so I absolutely believe that men feel the same way, and we need compliments. It's good to know that your efforts are appreciated in whatever those efforts may be, as you're trying to please your spouse or please the person that you are dating. And I think that it's a warm sentiment in knowing that those small efforts or subtle efforts of showing your appreciation for others is met in kind.
Absolutely. I echo that sentiment. Pastor Moore, you want to weigh in?
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly that men, of course, love words of affirmation. In fact, it's part of the 5 love languages. One is words of affirmation. In fact, that's one of mine. That's almost like a paycheck to me. A thank
Wow.
you. It is not stroking the male ego, but is a thank you to know that you're seen, recorded, acknowledged. Yes, that is absolutely, it's paramount that a person receive those words. And a lot of times, that actually sometimes can break relationship and counseling people. I think that
Mhm.
sometimes we take a person's presence for granted, or say you're supposed to do that. And so a thank you is like even Jesus with the 10 that he healed, and
Mhm.
the 10 lepers, and one in return he gave thanks. Those are words of
Absolutely.
affirmation, and he took note of that and said, "Where are the other nine?" So of course, men crave affirmation, and we should. Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well stated. Isaiah, you want to go ahead and weigh in on that too?
Yes. Uh, I think that a healthy level of, compliments or uh, affirmations, as some of the other panelists put it, are, what any healthy male needs, especially from their spouse and their families, the people that they see every day. We want to know that we're making an impact, that our actions and that our motives, are being met positively.
Absolutely. And just to further that, further what the gentleman has just said, quite frankly, I think it's just absolutely asinine for any frog. I like to use the expression the frog that doesn't praise his or her pond is kind of like asinine to me. So, men, we often do more, and women don't realize that when we actually praise for the little things that we do, it makes us want to do a lot more things for the home. So, I digress on that point. All right, we know that at times, tact can be the four-letter word that we never learn, but many times, being brutally honest, is our way of showing you that we care. Think about it. Throughout the day, it's common to lie or obfuscate with people you have no interest in. The art of BS is how we get through our day. But with our ladies, we want to forget all that. Hint, ladies, we want to forget all of that. We want to tell you why your mother bothers us and how you can stop fighting with your high maintenance friend. Now, just to answer this, just let me go to the second question now. Do you guys feel that our honesty is well intentioned? And if so, if so, why or why not?
Can you again, can you,
Repeat
Mr.
the
Davis,
question.
explain that again in such a, yes, please,
Okay, in,
and
in,
make
in
it kind of,
essence, what I'm
because this
simply,
is,
it wasn't clear. Okay, in other words, I'm asking, do you feel, because a lot of times people say, tact is a four-letter word that's often, it's hard to, and it's harsh even coming, I guess, when sometimes, let's say, if we tell our wives or our spouse, whatever, girlfriends, hey, baby, you don't look good in that dress, or I want you to maybe wear that particular dress. It's easy for us to Bobo the clown or to be very, 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 very mendicious in our approach with what we would say to other people versus our spouse, even if it's brutally honest and it's hurtful. But I think sometimes when we say things to our spouse or our person that we're dating, it can come off as being harsh, but I think that we're well intentioned and we mean well because we're not trying to be malicious in anything that we're saying. So the question is, do you feel that our honesty is well intentioned? Or at least it should be.
okay, perfect, perfect. Um, I can say, married 21 years. Huh. There are times you have to know what to say, when to say, and
I
how to
agree.
say it.
Absolutely.
Because you can be honest, but when to be honest. Like, for instance, I have said to me, my wife said, how do I look in this dress? Do I look fat? If I know wearing white make you look wider,
Right.
and I know she likes the dress, I would deflect. Why? Because I want to save the argument. Now, I'm more, of course, I'm honest. If you continue to dig, I say, no, white make you look wider. And so a
Okay.
lot of times we deflect as men because we want to save the argument and save the fight because every hill is not worth dying on. That's my perspective.
Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. That's powerful. That's powerful. Any other
Absolutely.
guys?
And I agree wholeheartedly with you, Pastor Moore. There's a saying that, truth can be brutal, or we've often heard the phrase be brutally honest. But oftentimes I think also it's not about whether we're being honest or not, but whether or not we have the ability to speak truth in love. And so again, as Pastor Moore alluded to, sometimes some things are just not worth saying. And so if you can't say something kind, if you can't say something good or positive to affirm the emotional well-being of your spouse, sometimes it's just best to keep silent.
Okay, but let me just play the devil's advocate for a moment. Because in certain situation, if this is the person that you love and that you are with and you're going to spend the rest of your life with, even in certain situations, now it may not be telling of address, but let's just say something like, okay, hey, baby girl, hey, you just don't do the chicken right. You don't cook chicken like how my mom cooks it. And being frank in that instance will only make her want to improve her efforts as opposed to just being lied to. Because certain things must be addressed. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Well, I don't know if it's wise to tell your spouse that she doesn't cook like your mother.
I was a bit dramatic.
Yeah. I mean, well, that could be a true statement, right? And that's being brutally honest. Whereas, if there's something about the chicken that you just really don't like, that you think that she can improve, then maybe it's, hey, baby, the chicken was pretty good tonight, but I think it can be better if you put a little bit more, seasoned salt on it. So I think
Okay.
there are ways that we can get to where we're trying to go if we choose to select the appropriate words to make certain we are also affirming our partner's emotional well-being as well. I think it kind of goes back to the first question
Okay.
that we were kind of tossing back and forth about whether or not men crave compliments. Well, just as men crave compliments, so do women, and no one likes to be in a position where they put forth their best efforts to please you by cooking you chicken, and the only response is, baby, this don't taste like my mama's. So I think that there are ways that we can still be truthful, but also speak truth in love.
Right, I agree. Isaiah, you want to go?
Yes. I think the phrase that best describes what you're talking about is tough love. You know what I mean? You want to see an improvement on something, but as the other panelists said, you have to be careful of stepping through that field of landmines and avoiding, destroying a trust in your relationship. Your partner is trusting you to think of their feelings, to think of their emotions and their needs when they're doing stuff for you, and they're looking for a compliment. So that's what you have to have prepared, but you can also correct them, and kind of guide them to that spot of what you need without stepping on their feelings.
Absolutely. I digress. All right. According to an article published by the Elite Daily, there are 10 values every 20-something man should strive to embody, and they are as follows: loyalty, respect, action, ambition, compassion, resilience, risk, centeredness, self-esteem, wisdom. Now, what are the core values in addition to these here? Do you guys feel that men want and need to possess or should embody in their life, and would want their spouse to as well?
This is Pastor Peyton chiming in again. I think that for me, I've been in ministry for almost 30 years, but I started my walk with Christ early. And as a man, a 42-year-old man, one of my values is being a man of faith, a man of God, who has God as the center of my life, Christ as the center of my life. And I'm hopeful that in a partnership, particularly with a spouse, that we can share that same level of faith. And when I say faith and understanding Christ, I'm talking to kind of two different realities. The first being able to have faith, the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen, which means sometimes life will present us with various challenges that sometimes can seem daunting and overwhelming. But
Right.
those of us who have faith, we hold on to hope regardless of how dark the situation may be, or even in the situation where we may want to give up and give out. We have to know that we serve a God who is able to turn around any situation and circumstance. And as long as we keep the faith, we know that everything will be all right. And so that's the faith piece. The Christ piece is, I think, starting from a place of knowing yourself and loving yourself.
Okay.
And accepting the grace of God for your life, so that in doing so, you can have the ability to show that love and grace for your partner and your spouse. And I think that's a process, because a lot of what we've been talking about tonight are emotions and feelings. And sometimes people don't say the right things. People don't do the right things. We do experience disappointments. But
Right.
when we understand the love of God and the grace of God, and how God loves us in spite of us, and his love covers a multitude of sins, and the grace that he gives us even when we don't deserve it, to forgive
Right.
us and to give us chances again. I think that we have to be more kind to ourselves,
Okay.
but then also we have to learn how to be more kind and more loving to others, and gracious to others as well.
I echo that sentiment, Pastor Peyton. Next guest want to weigh in?
The list sometimes of what we should have and the reality of what we will have at that age
Mm-hmm.
is sometimes differ, because everybody has a different way of their growth. Like, you're growing in certain areas. I know at 20, because I have twins and they're 18, and
Okay.
their values they will have to actually embody and grow into.
Right.
For instance, when you deal with loyalty, it starts maybe from a small scale, like
Mm-hmm.
loyal to your job, loyal to friendships, and then you build up of those values. So there's a lot of values that we build up, but there's a core, like Pastor said, that was speaking before. He said, one, a biblical core value is essential for the
Mm-hmm.
life of a Christian. Like for me, there's a biblical core value to my marriage, to myself, that the
Okay.
Lord requires in spite of, right? So those
Right.
things we want to apply, but in the midst of it, we still grow. That's why we have the fruit of the Spirit, where temperance and joy and love and faith, those things continue to grow in our life. But there are some core values. Like when I do marriage counsel, there are some core values that should be there.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
so I believe as you grow, as you apply these values to your relationship, life, job, everything, then
Mhm.
you'll start possessing them. But that don't mean you possess all those values. Some of them you may lack. but hopefully you will try to get the core values in your life over time. Mm-hmm.
I can dig that. I can dig that. Isaiah, you want to go in and weigh in?
Yes. The value that most stands out to me is loyalty. You know, I've seen a lot of fickle, men and women, and the thing that I would like to, you know, express is just that if you don't really believe in the cause that you're supposed to be rallying behind, or the thing that you're supposed to be advancing, it could just be your relationship. If you don't really believe in your relationship and you're not loyal to your partner or to the commitment that you made to that person, it's going to fall apart, and it's going to be very painful, because you have to hold to your word or see it fall in front of you. That's just my experience. If you don't hold up to what you committed to, what you said, what you have I can't think of the word for it, what you've advertised. If you don't stick behind that, the failure is painful, and it is almost destructive to the man and to the woman that can't hold their word, that can't hold their commitment.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now, here's another question. Let me ask you, guys, have things and times truly changed men's needs, wants, and expectation of women they are in relationships or marriages with? Or is it the same traditionally as it was back in the day?
Yeah, let me chime in quickly. I believe things have changed. My marriage have changed. The woman I married is not the same at 20. My wife was 20, I believe, 21. I was 24. And I'm 45 now. Things change. Now, she grew and I grew. But for instance, the traditional, the man work, the woman stay home and take care of the house. It depends on where you live and how much you make. Like when I was in Bible school in West Virginia, in Parkersburg, you can do that. The cost of living is not high, but I live in Miami, and you're paying for the sunshine down here. And it's not like Georgia, you get a big home. You're paying for sunshine and entertainment,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So most of the time, the average home take two people to work.
That's true.
And
that is true.
It's just a fact. And if one get off earlier than the other, one may start the food, the other may not start the food. So we live in a metropolitan area like Atlanta, New York, wherever you stay at, when it's very busy, even some small towns, and not some people stay in a small town and their lives are very busy. And so to say you stay home, like they did in the old days, it depends. So I still believe in the role of men and women in certain ways. But at the same time, there has to be now a partnership to understand the relationship on how we're going to do this. One may be better at managing the finances. One may be better at doing something else. So I think in a marriage that there's a traditional biblical core role. At the same time, in that role of marriage, you have to know the strength of your marriage and the strength of your spouse. And both of you sit down and talk about it. And yes, roles have changed. Times have changed, which brought change to relationships.
And you know what, Pastor Moore, it's interesting you said that, because when you look at it, I would argue that more contemporary relationships, you cannot have the same expectations. And in fact, I was talking to my 10th grade class, and I was just asking them, I'm like, ladies, do you feel that it's the woman's responsibility to cook, clean, and do the dishes? And it was a resounding, overwhelmingly response that was given, no, 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 no. And interesting enough, the young ladies would say this here. They said, if I have to go out and work, why should I have to do the household chores? I make an income just like he makes an income. So I definitely believe that there must be a concession made with respect to chores. Like if she's working and she gets home maybe a little earlier, maybe she can do dinner. Or if you're working and you get home a little earlier, you can do dinner. Now, in my situation, I can't cook. So it'll be maybe some McDonald's or Burger King or something like that. But it's definitely, the times have changed, and it has definitely caused the roles that we play in the relationships to change as well. So I definitely can dig that, Pastor Moore. You want to go ahead, Pastor Peyton?
No, I agree wholeheartedly with Pastor Moore, and I think it just depends on, each couple's context. I think that it's important prior to getting to the marriage stage to make certain that you fully flesh out those pre-existing expectations, so that you can make certain that they are manageable expectations. And then also, as Pastor Moore alluded to, just as times change, people change. And so sometimes we sign up for things that over time we may need to renegotiate our expectations. And so I think just, as people evolve, as times change and people evolve, we have to be open to those changes and renegotiate the expectations that we will manage together in a relationship.
Absolutely. I can dig that, Pastor Peyton. Go ahead, Mr. Wallace. Isaiah, you want to weigh in?
Yes. I stand behind what they said before. And just to add to it, my number one expectation for my spouse or my wife is just the loyalty that I spoke of before. I'm not looking for too many hills to die on, so to speak. I'm not looking to have turmoil every single day. The only thing that I want is that loyalty, to know that she is as committed to the relationship as I am.
Okay, so the fact that because you can have a whole lot of loyalty and an empty stomach, does that not matter to you?
I'm not gonna lie. My wife doesn't cook. I do the cooking. My wife doesn't like to clean, so when I have a chance, I have to clean, and I still have to provide.
Oh, wow. Hey, listen, I take my hat off to you. That is, and you know what? And I think every relationship, as Pastor Peyton stated and Pastor Moore both so wonderfully said, I think if you go in your relationship and you know the rules of the engagement, I think it can be fair game. If you guys have that understanding, it's workable. But guys, guess what? We are out of time for this segment with What Men Want, Part 1 on Crack the Mic. Definitely tune in on next week. We will see you with our distinguished panel, Isaiah Wallace, Keon Payton, and Pastor Keith Moore. Again, thank you for chiming in to Crack the Mic. Peace.